HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents Becoming a Calm Mom: How to Manage Stress and Enjoy the First Year of Motherhood by Deborah Roth Ledley, Ph.D. Read by Lisa Larsen. Publisher's note: this audiobook contains references to material present in the print and ebook editions of the book. Introduction. When I was pregnant with my first baby, I had two conversations that I will never forget. Both were with friends who, like me, have PhDs in psychology. Both women are highly accomplished, organized, and competent. They have wonderful husbands and supportive families and friends. They are women anyone would perceive as having it all together. Yet the two women told me that their first year of motherhood was the hardest year of their lives. Both confided in me about how difficult breastfeeding was and how pressured they felt to continue it despite significant challenges. Both spoke of the loneliness of being home with a baby after spending years in work environments in which they were able to nurture great friendships along with great careers. With tears in their eyes, both mentioned the shame they felt on the days they just didn't enjoy being a new mom. These thoughts and feelings were terribly surprising to my two friends, both of whom had wanted babies for as long as they could remember. When I first had these conversations, I have to admit that they went in one ear and out the other. However, during my daughter's first year, I thought about these discussions again and again. Let me explain why. When you ask a woman how she is enjoying being a new mom, most talk about the sheer bliss they are experiencing. New moms describe having a baby as the best thing I've ever done, or the most wonderful time in my life. When I became a mom for the first time, I was surprised that I rarely, particularly in the first few months, experienced the blissful happiness that so many new moms describe. Rather, each day was a complex blend of emotions. I certainly had many moments of happiness and bliss, but I also had moments of frustration, loneliness, and sadness. One of the most salient examples of this mix of emotions happened when my daughter was 2 months old. She was very cranky and cried on and off for an entire day. Nothing I did soothed her. Often a walk or an outing to the grocery store gave us both a new perspective. But on this particular day, a torrential rainstorm prevented us from going out. To top it off, my husband was working late that evening, so I had no relief or company to look forward to at the end of the day. I was definitely not having a blissfully happy day. As the day came to a close, I made myself some dinner and put my daughter in her swing next to me at the table. Suddenly, she looked over and presented me with her very first smile. Given the enthusiastic response she got from me, she tried it again and proceeded to smile for an entire hour. I abandoned my dinner and started snapping pictures for my husband. It was truly one of those precious new mom moments. After I put my little one to bed, I called almost everyone I knew to tell them about her fantastic first smile. Yet, I made an interesting observation that night. I was ashamed to share with anyone that I had spent most of the day feeling frustrated and practically crying right along with her when nothing would soothe her. Why was this? When my friends told me about their challenges as new moms, why did they relate their stories to me in hushed tones? Who are all these women who talk about the pure bliss of being a new mom? Were they having a different experience than I was having, or that my friends had? Or was there something else going on? Over the past 2 years, I talked about these issues with every new mom I know. I have concluded that new moms feel a great deal of pressure to share only the blissful moments with others and trust me, there are many. They are ashamed to share the challenging moments. They do not want to be perceived as bad, uncaring, incompetent, or selfish mothers. Perhaps more importantly, they do not want to perceive themselves in this way. In particular, women who wanted babies for as long as they can remember, or who had a lot of challenges getting or staying pregnant, mention feeling that every moment must be special, enjoyable, and meaningful. The problem with this social pressure to share only the joyful times is that new mothers have no support for dealing with the challenging times. Keeping frustrations and challenges to ourselves can lead to significant anxiety and sadness. It can cause us to focus on the hard parts of being a new mom, so that we fail to recognize and appreciate the many precious and happy moments. Furthermore, by not being honest with friends and family members, new moms fail to benefit from the collective experience of others. The best way to learn how to deal with the challenges of being a new mother is to talk with other people. Specifically, to talk with them in an honest and open way. Gaining insight into what psychology can offer to new moms. Before becoming a mom, I had spent most of my days talking with other people. I completed my PhD in psychology in 1999, and since then have focused my attention on the nature and treatment of stress and anxiety. I have done a lot of research and teaching, but my passion has always been my work with clients. It is truly rewarding to help a person who is incapacitated by stress and anxiety move toward a more functional and enjoyable life. People often joke about how doctors are the worst patients, and I was certainly an example of this during my first few months of motherhood. To be honest, I felt stressed out much of the time. It wasn't until I started to make friends with other new moms that I realized I had all sorts of skills that I could use to adjust to my role as mother. The turning point for me came after I met a group of 10 women and their babies at a breastfeeding support group at our local hospital. We quickly became friends and are still close. For some reason, the typical rules of self-disclosure did not apply within this group of women. We shared everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly about being new moms. When I began to hear other people's experiences, which were similar to my own, I developed clear ideas about strategies that could help them. I had worked with anxious clients for years, so I recognized that my friends and I were experiencing anxiety that is typically associated with major life events, even the exciting, wonderful ones. Although I never practiced therapy with my friends, I certainly had little suggestions from my psychologist toolbox that I offered them. One day, I suddenly realized that I had wasted the past few months feeling anxious, but doing absolutely nothing to help myself. Quickly, I put my psychologist hat back on my head and got down to business. I challenged my negative thoughts about my abilities as a mom. If my daughter had a particularly cranky day, I stopped feeling I was at fault. I took a careful look at my standards, for example, what I expected to accomplish in a day, and questioned whether these expectations were reasonable. When I concluded that they were not, I began to set more reasonable goals, thereby setting myself up for success each day rather than for failure. I began to be my own behavior therapist, figuring out which factors helped me have great days as a new mom, and making sure those factors were included in as many of my days as possible. These factors included being around other people, getting fresh air and exercise, and staying busy. For me, staying busy at home did not do the trick. We spent a lot of time running pretty dull errands, but for whatever reason, on the days my daughter and I got out and about, we both seemed much happier. I also began practicing the relaxation techniques I had been teaching my clients for years. I used these when my daughter cried inconsolably, when we were being glared at on airplanes because she was not silent for the entire flight, or when I was beyond exhausted but couldn't get back to sleep after a late-night feeding. Perhaps most importantly, I reminded myself of the need to accept all emotions, positive or negative. People want to ignore negative emotion, and they prefer to focus on positive emotion. However, this tendency can lead to the shame, anxiety, and secretiveness that I discussed earlier. I realized that in the safety of our mothers group, we talked about everything, and that after sharing a particular challenge, I would often feel so much better. One reason for this was that we saw that we were all facing the same challenges. Another reason was that we learned so much from each other through this process of sharing. From solutions to simple problems, which brand of baby bottle or diapers to use, to those that were much weightier. Decisions about childcare, the effect of a baby on one's marriage, relationships with parents and in-laws, etc. After I started to use the simple strategies that I had been teaching to my clients for years, and after I became more accepting of both the ups and the downs of motherhood, I undoubtedly became a calmer and happier mom. A few months after my first baby arrived, the idea for becoming a calm mom was born. An overview of becoming a calm mom. I decided to write Becoming a Calm Mom after I recognized that I had a lot of advantages as a new mom that others might not have. As a psychologist, I have at my disposal a toolbox of simple and effective strategies to help me navigate challenges in my life. As I mentioned, it took me a while to make the connection between my personal and professional life. However, I saw firsthand the degree to which these strategies could alter my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors on a daily basis. I wanted to share these simple strategies with others. In Chapter 1, I discuss what being a new mother is really like. In other words, why new moms are not calm. 6 calm mom strategies are introduced in Chapters 2 and 3. The remainder of the book offers countless examples of how to use these strategies in your daily life. After the 6 calm mom strategies are introduced, Becoming a Calm Mom continues with 3 main sections. Chapter 4, Calm Mom, Calm Baby, helps new moms deal with the challenges inherent in caring for a newborn. I discuss such topics as feeding, sleep, development, and illness. There are great books available on these topics, so I provide brief tips on how to actually feed your baby or get him or her to sleep, for example. Rather, the focus of Becoming a Calm Mom is on you. How can you make decisions about breast versus bottle feeding? How can you stop worrying about whether your child is developing normally? What should you do if your fears of germs and illness are preventing you from leaving the house with your new little one? As a new mom, I got a great deal out of reading books on how to breastfeed, but I couldn't find much information on the feelings associated with breastfeeding. Similarly, our pediatrician taught us how to clear our daughter's stuffy nose over the course of the 10 colds she had during her first winter in daycare. But no book talked about the guilt I felt about the fact that she was catching all these germs at daycare. Becoming a Calm Mom aims to fill this gap. After the fog of the first few months of motherhood lifts and our babies are eating well, sleeping for longer stretches of time, and starting to do all sorts of exciting things, there is time, albeit not much, to think about ourselves again. This is the focus of Chapters 5 and 6. Moms. In Chapter 5, Remaining Calm When Me Becomes Mom, I discuss solutions to common challenges faced by new moms. The experience of surprising emotions, loss of identity and freedom, loss of self-confidence, and loss of time for oneself. Chapter 6 focuses on the unique challenges facing both working moms and stay-at-home moms. As with the rest of the book, Chapters 5 and 6 seek to normalize experiences and offer simple strategies women can use to adjust to their exciting but daunting new role as mom. Chapter 7 is titled Remembering Relationships. There's more to life than just your baby. Our relationships change after we have a baby. Some relationships become much stronger and more meaningful. Others deteriorate due to strain. Regardless, all relationships need nurturing, just like our babies. This chapter shows how to use the Calm Mom strategies to effectively deal with spouses, new friends, old friends, and the other significant people in our lives, such as our parents and in-laws. The final chapter, Happy First Birthday, provides a means to reflect on what it means to make it through the first year of motherhood. Moms often forget to give themselves credit for a job well done. That is what Chapter 8 is all about. Other important topics in this chapter include setting goals for the year ahead and making decisions about whether and when to have baby number 2. Becoming a Calm Mom also includes an appendix and a Resources for New Moms section. The appendix addresses the crucial issue of postpartum depression and anxiety. A major goal of this book is to assure new mothers that their experiences and emotions are shared by others. However, some moms will listen to this book and have difficulty applying the strategies on their own. They might find that their feelings of sadness and anxiety are so intense that they need more assistance than a book can provide. This too is normal. Many new moms suffer from postpartum depression and anxiety. But there is no reason to suffer alone. There are highly effective treatments available for these problems, including medication and therapy. In the appendix, the symptoms of postpartum depression and anxiety will be reviewed and treatment options presented. Resources for New Moms presents various resources for new moms, from places to connect with other new mothers, to great books to read about babies and parenting, and reputable websites to consult with all your new mom questions. Becoming a Calm Mom is a process. When I first proposed this book idea, the working title was The Calm Mom. APA Books suggested I change the title to Becoming a Calm Mom. This was an excellent suggestion, because learning to be a calm mom is a process. Putting calmness aside, becoming a mom is a learning process. There is an expectation that once your little bundle of joy is placed in your arms in the delivery room, you will immediately know how to be a mom. This is an unrealistic expectation. Learning to care for a baby takes time. As you get to know your baby, and your baby gets to know you and becomes familiar with the world. As for being a calm mom, this too takes time. The strategies included in this book are simple to try, but take practice to hone. Consider the strategies, try them all, and then figure out which work best for you. I hope you will come to see Becoming a Calm Mom as an honest, open, and fun book to guide and support you through all the amazing firsts that will occur during your year as a brand new mom. Chapter 1. Why New Moms Are Not Calm Moms. The moment a child is born, the mother is also born. She never existed before. The woman existed, but the mother never. A mother is something absolutely new. Rajneesh, 1931 to 1990. You wanted a child all of your life. You waited for years to find the right person with whom to spend your life. Then, it took a little while to actually get pregnant. You spent 9 months counting down the days until you would become a mom. You chose names, decorated the nursery, bought clothes, and attended childbirth classes. You felt that your world would be complete after baby arrived. You made it through hours of painful labor, and finally, your little one has arrived. Now what? Becoming a mother for the first time is one of the most miraculous, growth-enhancing, interesting, and fun experiences that life offers. It is miraculous to finally lay eyes on the individual who has been growing inside you for 9 months. It is amazing to see how beautiful and perfect these little creatures are, from their tiny toes to their soft, downy heads. Although newborn babies don't do much in their first few weeks of life besides eating, sleeping, and filling diapers, it is remarkable to observe how quickly they develop. In their first few weeks of life, babies can imitate others who are sticking out their tongues. Try it, you'll see. By about 2 months of age, babies begin making eye contact and smiling. Soon, babies are working hard to roll over, then to sit up on their own, and before you know it, they are crawling, walking, and talking. It is truly incredible to compare a 1-year-old baby with a newborn. There is probably no other year in our entire lives when we change and grow so much. Although it is certainly fun to watch any baby develop into a toddler, there is nothing like watching your own. Along with the wonder, fun, and excitement is a remarkable feeling of love, responsibility, and pride that we feel for our own children. It is also incredible to consider all the changes that happen in your life between the day you become a mom and the day you celebrate your baby's first birthday. In those first few weeks, a woman's hormones go from an all-time high back to pre-pregnancy levels. As noted in the appendix, this hormonal slide can do all sorts of odd things to new moms, from bringing on torrents of unexpected tears to having strange thoughts that are completely at odds with the unconditional love we expected to feel toward our babies. 2 other factors that may contribute to a new mother's wildly fluctuating emotions are sleep deprivation and the body's efforts to recover from the grueling experience of pregnancy and childbirth. At the same time that our bodies and minds are clearly not at their best, there is just so much to learn. New moms must quickly learn how to change diapers, breast or bottle feed, bathe, soothe, and entertain our babies. As the weeks and months progress, our brains become flooded with all sorts of new information. From the words of long-forgotten songs and nursery rhymes, to the best child care centers or pediatricians in our neighborhoods, to the various brands of diapers or bottles we can try. On a personal level, new moms grow in a myriad of ways. We learn to multitask like never before. Working moms struggle to balance work with home life. Moms who choose to stay home with their little ones have a lot to figure out too. Some might be transitioning from working outside the home to staying at home for the first time in many years. Those who were not working before having a baby need to figure out how to integrate a baby into an already full and busy life. The first year of motherhood is a time we reshape our identities to maintain what we loved about our pre-baby selves as we incorporate a new identity as mom. Being a new mom means working on keeping existing relationships strong while developing new relationships that develop because we are now mothers. The first year of motherhood is fascinating, not only because we spend it observing the amazing growth of our babies, but also because we go through a great deal of growth ourselves. At the same time, becoming a mother for the first time is one of the most challenging, stressful, exhausting, and overwhelming experiences in life. Although women often seem compelled to paint a rosy picture to others about how blissful it is to be a new mom, the reality is that it is not easy. Why is it so difficult to become a calm mom? The world is full of women blindsided by the unceasing demands of motherhood, still flabbergasted by how a job can be terrific and torturous. Anna Quindlen. To answer the question of why new moms are not calm, I conducted an informal survey of new moms. My survey was done with what psychologists call a convenience sample. I wrote an email to friends who were new moms and asked them to pass it along to their friends who were also new mothers. This was not a random sample. That is, getting birth records for a city and calling every 10th person, and certainly not representative of every new mother across America. However, with that said, I think the findings are pretty interesting. I received emails from moms all across the United States and Canada, and some from England. Some moms had babies who were just a few weeks old, and some had just made it through the first year. Some moms were staying at home with their babies, some working full-time, and some working part-time. Most had partners who were sharing childcare responsibilities. Some were on their own. The women in my sample ranged from their late 20s to early 40s. The common thread was that all were writing about their experiences with their first babies, and all had a great deal to say. The first question in my Calm Mom survey referred to what respondents found to be the greatest source of stress during their first year of motherhood. Here are the most common responses I received. Sleep deprivation. One of my biggest sources of stress was sheer exhaustion. I remember one night, I think the third or fourth night, when my husband had to literally lift me up so that I could breastfeed our baby. I was not a good napper, so I couldn't nap when my son napped. I was totally running on empty. When he was napping, I tried to get everything done in the house that I would have normally tried to do, whether it was realistic or not. I pulled the occasional all-nighter in college to study for a test or get a paper done. I remember feeling sick and totally out of it the next day. I never could have imagined what it would feel like to pull all-nighters for, well, what turned out to be 8 months in a row. Loneliness. I went from having company at work all day, every day, to having minimal company at home. My husband works a lot in the evenings and on the weekends. I thought that when I had a baby, I would never be lonely again. So it was surprising to actually feel lonelier than I used to, even though I had my baby with me all the time. Breastfeeding. I had this dreamy notion that this was the most natural, instinctive thing a new mother could do, and that I would have no problem nourishing my child. My loneliness was exacerbated by having trouble breastfeeding, which made me less interested in going out, as I felt stressed enough trying to make her breastfeed at home, never mind in front of others. In hindsight, I think one of the reasons I had trouble breastfeeding was because of all the pressure I put on myself to be as good a mother as my mom, which only added to my feelings of inadequacy. Feelings of frustration, uncertainty, and inadequacy. I had no idea what to do. I always considered myself so smart, and now I felt useless. I think the reason it is so insane with our first is because we have nothing to go on. I was so unsure of every move I made, and I felt completely alone. Yes, my husband was there, but I was the mother. I was supposed to know why he, my son, was crying, what would make him happy, and how to get him to stop. The expectations of being the one with all the answers, because I am, after all, his mother, was so overwhelming. The most difficult thing for me was not having anything to which I could compare this time of my life. This meant that I had no way of knowing how much better it was going to get and when. Being home with a new baby was hardest for me because I didn't know what to do with myself. There was no order or structure, and I was too tired and out of it to make plans. I felt lazy, even though it's one of the most important things I've ever done. I remember vividly standing.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?